Hello, and thank you for joining us on ABC24 This Week. I am your host, Pepper Baker. You are here for the real stories behind the big stories, and I hope you'll continue to join us every Sunday. All right, let's go ahead and introduce our lovely panelists. We have ABC24 political analyst Otis Sanford. We have MLK50 reporter Catherine Burgess, and then we have former Memphis City Councilwoman and former Shelby County Schools Board member Tawan Stout Mitchell. Got it right this time. You got a lot of titles. All right. So another packed show, starting with, of course, the story that keeps on giving, the National Guard. And the lawsuit against Governor Bill Lee, headed by Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris, doesn't really stand a chance. Then we'll talk about why city employees are not happy with the city of Memphis government. And lastly, a Tennessee state rep's bill to recall local elected leaders paired with a Shelby County commissioner's resolution to override Mayor Harris's veto to align MSCS and commission elections. But back to number one, the lawsuit against the National Guard deployment filed by local officials and the legal group Democracy Forward argues that the governor broke state law by allowing troops to patrol city streets without approval from lawmakers or city leaders. Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris says bookings and bail settings have doubled since federal agents and the Guard arrived in Memphis, and he left most of the talking during Wednesday's briefing up to the other plaintiffs. But here's a clip of what President and CEO of Democracy Forward, Sky Perryman, had to say.
What is happening in Memphis is a threat to the American people. It is a threat to the people in Memphis. What is happening in Memphis is not just happening in Memphis. Across this country, we have seen in places like Los Angeles, Portland, Chicago, the militarization of our cities. For centuries in this country, we have known, and it has been the law, that the military is not to be used in our cities for domestic purposes. But yet that is what we are seeing in Memphis and around the cities.
Now, the lawsuit requests a temporary injunction on the National Guard deployment, citing a clause in the Tennessee Constitution that the militia shall not be called into service except in the case of rebellion or invasion with the approval of the Tennessee General Assembly. Well, Governor Lee seems unfazed and responded to the lawsuit in a statement that says, in part, "We are confident the court will uphold the governor's constitutional authority." And I also want to bring attention to what President Trump had to say about the task force in Memphis this week.
Well, we've used the National Guard to be very successful in Memphis. You can see the numbers are falling like rocks. Allowed, as you know, as president, like 50% of the presidents have used the Insurrection Act. They can use that, and everybody agrees you're allowed to use that, and there's no more court cases, there's no more anything. We're trying to do it in a nicer manner, but we can always use the Insurrection Act if we want. I mean,
All right, so lead us off here, Otis. Does this lawsuit have merit? How far will it go? Is it a waste of time and taxpayer money?
Well, I don't think it's a waste of time. I think the courts do need to weigh in on this and decide it, especially as it relates to the National Guard. The facts are that the National Guard are really not doing a whole lot here in the city. They're walking around and, in tourist spots. The other members of this Memphis Safe Task Force are the ones that are making the arrests, primarily State Highway Patrol. They're the ones that are out there on the roadways, and they are arresting people. More than half of the arrests coming from the Highway Patrol. And so the National Guard is really not doing anything. It's just a symbol here of a military occupation that I think kind of rubs some people the wrong way. But as I've been saying on the show all along, Pepper, there are a lot of people who support this. I ran into a guy just an hour or so ago at a Fresh Market who supports it completely, African-American guy. And so we'll see where the courts are. The Chancery Court in Davidson County, relatively moderate to liberal court, I might say, and we'll see how that court decides this, whether it's in favor of the plaintiffs or in favor of the defendants.
Yes, and Catherine, I want to ask you about the courts. Governor Lee seems confident that the court will uphold his authority, but is there a violation here?
I'm no attorney, so I can't give you a definitive yes or no. Wait to see what the court says. But I will say that I have read the 2021 Attorney General ruling that was mysteriously disappeared from the website, and it is very compelling. It essentially says the National Guard is militia, and militia is only to be called under certain circumstances, which on a plain reading have not been met here. Now, will that play a role in this lawsuit? I think it'll play a role. I don't know what will happen, and I'm certainly curious to see. I think it's important to remember, as Otis said, though, that the National Guard is one small component of a task force that's made of 31 different agencies. So even if the lawsuit is successful, we'll still have the Memphis task force here with 30 other agencies, I would assume. So it's just a small piece of a much larger operation.
It most definitely isn't. Tawan, with your facial expressions, I know you already have a lot to say, or you're thinking a lot. Pointing to the President Trump statement about this is a nice way to go about it, and we can deploy the Insurrection Act if we want to. What do you make of that?
I thought that was kind of funny because I didn't see anybody in Memphis breaking down doors or windows or defecating any buildings of city government. I haven't seen any insurrection in Memphis, so I don't know where he gets that basis from. He should have kept that with January 6th. Now, do I think it's a good thing we're going to court? Yes, I do. I think nobody asked for the National Guard. We asked for those other resources. We also asked to keep our judges, and they didn't hear us. We also asked for a crime center so we can do labs. They didn't hear us. And we asked for resources. And finally, that was heard. But nobody asked, nobody, for the National Guards. So that should be a legitimate question for the court to resolve. And there was no insurrection. I think he must have his time periods mixed up.
Now, will this, Otis, last point here, will this set a precedent when local governments take a stand against these deployments? What happens in this court? Does that set a precedent at all?
I think it could. Again, as Catherine said, you never know what a court's going to do. But if the plaintiffs prevail here, it could set up an interesting dynamic of local government, and we've had that in the city for the last few years, of local government going against state government in a lot of different ways, and this just adds to that. And another thing that Tawan mentioned, we also asked for reasonable reforms to gun laws.
Yes, we did.
And nobody listening to us for that.
Nobody heard us.
And so as a result of that, you got guns everywhere, proliferation of guns. You got guns in cars, and you got kids stealing cars, and they're getting the guns, and the guns are being used in crimes. I mean, it's all like a cascading thing here, and we asked for that, and they said, go away.
And we asked for all those things because we wanted to do something about our own crime problem.
Right.
Now, I don't know what they are doing with the National Guard. I don't even know what the National Guard is doing. But I will say this, it disappoints me that we have not seen in our local media a list of names of people who've been arrested, the charges, the ages, the neighborhood,
And where they're being kept.
and where they're being kept, and the level of the offense.
That data is hard to get to, but we are.
And that's
I'm
the
sure,
point.
Catherine, as you
We're
can,
working on
we
it.
are
We're
working.
We are asking for that.
But there has been a huge lack of transparency,
Yes.
and so it is hard to know what the actual results of this are.
Yes. All right. We do have to kind of end it there, but the city workers are mad at the city of Memphis. We're going to get into their protests next.